Good morning. Welcome to the Keystone Western Podcast. My name is Pedro. I'm your host and producer. This is the show where we dive into the heart of trucking and the transportation industry, exploring the stories, challenges, and innovations that keep the world moving. Each week, we bring you conversations with industry veterans up and becoming professionals and experts on everything from career advice and industry trends to mental health, fitness, and beyond. Whether you are a seasoned driver, someone curious about the industry, or just looking for inspiring stories, we've got you covered. Let's get started. This morning, I have a special guest, my colleague, Chrissie.
Hi.
Good morning.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. You?
I'm good.
Good.
So, tell me a little bit about yourself. Like, how did you get started in the trucking industry?
Well, I graduated from Warren Collegiate back in June of 1984. Okay. And I put my application into a trucking company and another company, and TransX phoned me first, and that's when I started. So I started 3 weeks after I graduated when I was 18.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And I started just basically the basic POD girl, and then I moved my way up to claims, and then I moved my way up to payroll, and then they moved me to Toronto when I was 21 to open the office in Toronto, and so forth. And going forward, now it's 44 years I've been doing this, and I've been in all aspects of the business other than shop.
Okay.
I'm not a very good technical person when it comes to like oil changes.
You wouldn't do oil changes?
I wouldn't even know where to go with that. My husband always tried to train me. He trained me to change my tires, but that was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. How did you start with Keystone?
That's a good question. So in my last portion of working at TransX, I worked there for 12 years. The last few years I was working in the recruiting and maintenance department and driver retention. And a gentleman by the name of Norm Schultz, who's been in the business forever and a day, phoned me. He was working at Big Freight at the time.
Okay.
They were hiring a driver retention manager for their company drivers.
Okay.
So he thought I would be a good fit, since him and I had worked together previously in the hiring department. He was at Arnold Brothers and I was at TransX. So I trotted myself out to Steinbach, had an interview with Norm Curtis for 3 hours, and I got hired.
Okay.
So I was there for 6 years, and I left the same time that Norm had left Big Freight, and I moved on to Tenold for a year. And then after that, Norm called me when he was here and said, "Hey, I have a job offer for you." And I was kind of skeptical because I'm not one to move, but he had offered me, to move into the dispatch area, and I thought that'd be a nice challenge, and the rest was history.
Okay. So what are some challenges that you faced early on?
So unfortunately, when I started in the 80s, it was the 60s, 70s, and 80s in the industry was a boys' club. So females were not very welcoming into the business. Never saw a female driver, let alone a female dispatcher. So the challenges were there was a lot of name calling and discriminatory comments. I remember one time I was in the hiring department and my name was in the paper, but it was identified as Chris. And a gentleman calls and was wanting a job and asked if he could speak with my manager. And I said, I am the manager. And he told me that he doesn't work for women. And he hung up.
Seriously?
So that was the start of going, okay, well, is this a business I really want to get into if that's the beginning of my career? And I never thought I'd be into this business for this long. I just thought that it was just a blip on the map. It was my stepping stone to bigger and better things.
Okay.
However, I got sucked in, and here I am, 44 years later.
No regrets?
No, I have to honestly say it's a very demanding industry, but very rewarding when things go right. And I've met many different people in my walk of work. I always said I could write a book for every driver that told me a story on the road.
Hey, maybe you should.
I should. I probably could be a millionaire by this time. But yes, it's very enjoyable. So it's good. Now the young ones are coming in and they're taking over and going forward with it.
Okay, could we dive into a little bit about how you overcame like the challenges, what you mentioned, like it being like a male-dominated industry, like how...
Well, it's funny that
how did it work for you?
It's funny that you say that, because I think my first week at work, I had an individual tell me that I should be pregnant barefoot in the kitchen, because women don't belong in this industry. And so I came home. I was living at home at the time because I was 18 and I was still figuring out where I should live. And I was crying. I was telling my dad, you know, this is what this gentleman said. And he says, I didn't raise a quitter. He said, you pick up your pants and you move on. And that person that said that to you is going to regret that in the future, because you're going to overcome that. Yeah. And I did. I became a stronger individual for that, because I was this little country girl, and if someone, you know, yelled at me, I went the other way. And I became a very individual person that thought for themselves, made decisions for myself, went forward with those decisions. If they were wrong, I would correct them later, but you learn by your errors. Yeah. So after a few, you know, little blips on the map and a few more comments, I started getting respect, and it just flourished from there.
Okay. Do you think the industry changed so much? Or
Absolutely.
Was it more? Okay.
Absolutely. For sure. Over the course, obviously, you can visually see it. Yeah. Most of our dispatch team now are females. Yeah. We have a handful of female drivers that we never had before. There was no derogatory comments. There's no swearing. Customers are very respectful. And, you know, let's be realistic. When I started, to get freight, you bought it. So you go and you meet with the purchaser at a certain company, and you give them a bottle. Or here's a trip for your kids to Disney World. And then you get all their freight. Okay. Now it's not like that. And that's great, because, you know, but it evolved like in the 90s, you could see a difference, 2000s, and now we're in 2024, and that is not even mentioned. Yeah.
Like it's probably like almost like a distant memory for you at this point.
Distant memory, yes. Yeah. Yes, I still deal with a few older chaps. Like, I'm not going to say they're my age, because they're much older than me, that are still in the industry, that are still a little gruff, but I know how to maneuver around that. And at the end of the day, those old chaps don't lie to you. They tell you the truth, whether it's not the truth you want to hear. They do tell you the truth, and if they're respectful, if you're respectful to them. Okay.
I feel like an older generation than mine, they were ruder. They might have been not as nice as we are now, but I think they would generally be more honest. I feel like our generation had lost honesty.
Yes, and see, it's kind of the old. I think I'm stuck in the middle of this whole old and new and blah 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 blah. But the reality is, if someone came to me bluntly, said something to me that wasn't very nicely said, but was the truth, I'd rather take that than someone lying to my face and then turn behind my back and do something else.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Somebody said once, choose guilt over resentment.
For sure.
You know, sometimes you have to tell the truth, and that's hard. And rather, you know, tell the truth to someone, rather than saying what they want to hear and having to regret what you said because you're not honest with them, right?
Well, and you have to be respectful. I always say if you don't want it, if you are disrespectful to someone, they're going to be disrespectful to you. I was taught many years ago that truck drivers especially are our paycheck. Okay. So treat them well. They're the ones that are hauling your load, and if they don't haul your load, you're not successful. So they're an extension of you. It's a team. It's not me over you, you over me. And when people start understanding that, operation flows nicely. And it's the same thing internally.
Right.
You know, respect your coworker and they'll respect you back. And if you are drowning at some point in time and you're overwhelmed, they'll step in and say, hey, what do I got to do to help you? And when you get that, the dynamic of operation is slick.
So the respect generally is not really freely given, right?
No, it's earned.
You have to earn it.
Right, but if you start with it, that earning takes no time.
Okay. But after betrayal, then the earning is much harder, right?
For sure. Yeah. And it's all about perceptive.
Yeah.
If you're perceiving you're being lied to,
Yeah.
it's real in their mind. So you got to nip it in the bud at that given time. If this gentleman or this lady comes to you and says, hey, you lied to me, then you sit down with them instead of contradicting what they're saying, because in their mind, they're right.
Okay.
So you talk it out. And if you, at the end of the day, they still think you're a liar, you can't fix that.
Okay.
But you were the bigger person to go forward.
Okay.
And I've had a few of those where I've had gentlemen get mad at me, and for whatever reason, wrong type of load, had to tarp it, whatever the case may be. And it went on for months until I nipped it in the butt and realized, hey, why are you still, being ignorant to me? And this went back 6 months ago.
Okay.
So they hold a grudge.
Yeah.
So then you bring them in and you sit through that process and ask them what they would have done. And they realize, hey, I would have done the same thing. And then you walk away, not having a problem again.
Okay.
And then when the next issue came up with that individual, he knew that he would have an open door to come and talk about that situation and instead of letting it build.
So then there's trust.
For
so
sure.
you completely lay out like your situation. For
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I do. I've had drivers from my Transex days that work here now that are in their 70s, and they still remember me from when I was 18. And so I remember you when you were doing my licensing book. And so if those are the positives you can bring forward in your life, and 50, 40 years later that they're still talking about it, there's something you've done right.
Yeah.
Right? And there's no class for this. There's no class to go to trucking school on how to be a good dispatcher or a good operations manager. There's tools that school can teach you, but it's just the real day-to-day stuff that makes a difference.
Well, isn't it with that almost anything in life, right? I mean, I wouldn't want a doctor to learn by trial and error, but I guess at some point somebody did.
They do.
Yeah. Well, to an extent, they still do, right?
They pull out the book still. My doctor still does, but
like almost anything in life, I feel like you can learn the theory about it, but once reality hits, it's very often completely different.
Yeah. So, it's go. It's go time.
So that's cool. That's awesome. What motivates you to
get up in the morning?
Yeah. Do you get up in the morning, come to work, and continue doing this every day? People
I work with.
So they're not that horrible.
There's stories, the stories to be had. Sure, I don't want to work as hard as I used to. But it's just nice to get up and know that, okay, well, maybe someone really wants me to come to work, because, they'll come to me and say, hey, I need your help, or I need an adult, or I need an advice. What would you have done if in this situation, right? Even though I'm not at all involved with the day-to-day operations of trucking anymore, I'm in the warehouse side of things. It's in my blood because that's all I know.
What advice would you give to someone who's just starting in the industry? Like an 18-year-old you, if you could give him advice in 2024.
That's a good question. Patience, for sure. There's the industry has changed so much from the time I was 18 to the time that they're 18. They have so many tools that I never did. We didn't have computers back then. We worked off of a board. Right. Like, this is where your truck and this is where. So there's a lot of stuff these individuals have as tools that can make them successful. Just go with their gut. Treat people at the other end like you want to be treated. And whatever they say, they're right. Because at that point in time, if you're arguing with them, it's not going to go anywhere.
Right.
And we are in a driver-driven industry, so treat them right. That's and respect the people beside you, because they're equals. You're no better than them. And if you don't have those tools, it's like that anywhere. But I always say, if you don't have those tools, maybe you're not in the right job.
Okay.
You know, you might want to go to warehousing and drive a forklift so you don't have to talk to people, because this is all about the talk.
Right. And and I'm assuming it can be challenging, it can be overwhelming, you know, talking to people all day, and you're kind of a salesperson. You're trying to convince them to.
You are a
to an
salesman,
extent, right?
For sure. You got to make that load of scrap cars look like cherries. And you know, we laugh about it, but they have to know that it's their decision that they want to take that load.
Right.
You didn't force them to do that. Back when I was dispatching, it was forced dispatch.
Okay.
If you didn't take it, you go to the back of the bus. Now it's not like that, and I kind of agree with it, because we're dealing with people. We're not just dealing with machines.
Yeah. What do you do to unwind and relax after work?
Well, it depends on the time of year.
Okay.
Right now, I got into this curling that I haven't curled in 30 years. So when you're my age and you haven't curled in 30 years, it's hard. You don't even know which side of the rock to throw. But I joined a ladies' league in the last 4 weeks, and I'm enjoying myself. We curl every Wednesday. So you get out of the house. I have a dog, so that keeps me quite busy.
Okay.
And I have a place at the lake. A couple of years ago, I lost my husband, but previous to that, him and I were big hunters. So we hunted.
You both hunted?
Yeah, we both hunted.
I'm intrigued.
Really? Yeah. He got me hunting when we first met, and we were together 30 years. So I started bird hunting, and then he got me into deer hunting. So I did that up until he passed.
Okay.
But I would never do it by myself.
Okay.
Like, I'm a bit of a wuss. I do love to paint. That's oil. I do oil painting. I haven't done it in a while, but I'm going to start doing that. I'm not going to say I'm a big reader, but when I get onto a book, I don't put it down.
What are your go-to books?
I'm kind of like more now of a history buff. I like the back history. Back when I was in my 20s and 30s, I like the little romance books. Yeah.
Okay.
But like I said, I have to get into modes. Like, I'll start a book, and if it's not that great, I'll put it down and I'll pick it up in a couple months.
Okay. Interesting. That's cool. Well, I guess the next question was, what is a hobby that you're passionate about? But you touched on quite a few hobbies, so.
I like golfing.
Okay.
That's my go-to retirement job. I've already scoped it out. In the summertime, I'm going to be the beer cart girl at the golf cart, and then that's going to pay for my membership.
Okay.
And I'll golf all summer. And then in the wintertime, we'll see. Depends on if I'm a millionaire or not. I might go away for a couple months. But at this point in time, golfing in the summertime, then I do my curling and your odd, stuff to do. Oh, shopping is a good thing to do too. But you have to have the money for that.
Yeah, it costs money. I was going to say that. It has its pros and cons.
That's for sure.
So next question was going to be, what's something that people might not have guessed about you, but I feel like hunting is one of them.
Yes. Well, I would send pictures of my, me with my duck and whatever, with my little, get up. And my dog was dressed the same as me, so we go out there.
Funny.
So
That's
yes,
awesome.
I'm a bit of a nut dog mom, but
Okay.
I think my painting got them a little surprised, because they didn't think I was that smart, or that talented. I mean, not smart. I don't mean to.
You're plenty smart.
Right? I just, I didn't know you could paint, and I'm going, neither did I.
Did you figure it out?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. Sports? You into sports?
Well, when I was younger, I used to play hockey and baseball. We were big baseball people, play baseball all the time. played girls hockey for a bit there, not very good at it, so it went to the wayside. Like I said, I liked curling when I was younger. I just hadn't done it because when I got out of it, we moved to Nolan. We had a little hobby farm, so when I wasn't working, I was feeding the chickens and watering the pigs and doing the thing because we had 10 acres out in Enola. So it kept us busy for the summer and the winter time, right? But now I don't have that, so like I said, I getting back into let's go curling, or let's go to painting class, or let's join a cooking class. I think I'm a fairly good cook. I'm not too sure because I only cook for myself now, but when I do cook for other people, they think it's good.
Oh, okay. But ultimately, as long as you like it.
That's
yourself,
right. Yeah.
The others were like, well, you get free food, so
right.
there's only so much you can say. Do you miss the farm?
I miss my life at the farm, for sure. I do. I didn't so much enjoy the butchering of the chickens because those were 5:30 in the morning adventures. I quite enjoyed having little piglets around until they got big. But it was just, we had 3 gardens, so we gardened a lot. We went cross-country skiing a lot. So those are the things that I want to get back into, like the cross-country skiing and stuff now, because I have worked. I'm going to a 4-day week, so I get to have my Mondays off. So that'll be good for, doing extracurricular activities.
Just to disconnect from working.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you earn that when you've worked in this business for 44 years.
Yeah, especially in the trucking industry.
Right.
It has its own challenges, right? Yeah. All right. That's it for my question. Anything you want to add?
No, I was just saying to you before this is a big thing for me because I'm not really into the interview and taking pictures scenario. So you don't often see me in the forefront.
Now people start asking for photographs.
Yeah.
I mean autographs.
Autographs. Yeah. Well, I'll give it to them, but they have to pay me for my autograph.
See, there's your retirement plan.
Yeah. Well, good job.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for your dedication to the industry, right? Like there's people that come in on the back end like me, and I was a driver for a long time. I don't remember. Well, I dealt with you a few times, but
I was on the deck side and you were more on the vans.
Yeah, I only came into deck for like a few months at the end of it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for your hard work and dedication.
Well, you're welcome.
And I hope your life continues as you dreamed. You get to ski a lot and curling and
curling and painting and golfing.
Once you're famous in curling and you have to do interviews, and this will.
There we go. Yeah, I'll be the Jennifer Jones of the world.
There you go. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Pedro.
Thank you.